Welcome to another episode of College Admission TV. Dr. J.P. Novin speaks with Laura Walker, president of Bennington College, about Bennington's student-centered interdisciplinary approach, where students design their own education and engage in internships.
Welcome to season 3 of the Higher Education Presidential Podcast, where we explore AI education and the future workforce. A big thank you to our sponsor, ASU GSV, for supporting this series and championing innovation in higher education. This is going to be on Spotify and various, I would say, podcast platforms, but also you could watch this on College Admission TV. I'm your host, JP Novin. I'm thrilled to welcome President Laura Walker, the 11th president of Bennington College. Welcome, President Walker.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Thank you. And happy Monday to you. Since 2020, which I believe is a time you've taken over, you've led the college through a period of renewed momentum. You've had record number of applications and growth. You've guided a very ambitious strategic plan. You also inaugurated a beautifully renovated wing of the institution's iconic barn building. Your history goes back to being student-centered, flexible learning, and a visual for liberal arts education, which makes you the perfect candidate for this episode. And over the next hour, we'd like to hear from you. We'd like to hear about your leadership journey, your strategy, and how you view AI. I'm sure you have all the answers to artificial intelligence. But tell us a little bit about your background. How did you end up at Bennington? And we'd love to hear more about Bennington College.
Sure. Well, I sometimes call myself an accidental college president in the sense that I came from outside of the world of higher education. And so I have loved being at Bennington, but it was a little bit of a shift for me. You know, I spent most of my career and life as a journalist and in public media. Excuse me. Sorry.
Take your time.
I spent most of my life in public media. So I worked as a journalist. I worked at NPR. I worked at Sesame Workshop, where I led the creation of new cable channel. And I also then spent 23 years as the CEO of New York Public Radio. But all of that is about informal learning. And at Bennington, I came to the school because I loved the pedagogy and I loved the sense of creativity that existed in the school. I'm sorry.
No problem. While you're taking a moment, first of all, the bar is very high because of your experience in NPR, and you got the Sunday show, the Peabody Award,
yeah,
and what have you. So I'll take a lot of notes from you at the end of this.
Yeah, and one of the things is to stop if you're joking. I'm sorry.
No problem. Take your time, but that's fascinating because I'm an avid NPR listener, so very, very admirable about the show and what you all have done.
Yeah, it's been such an interesting journey. I'm sorry. I'm just going to get some. Sorry.
No problem. Take your time. Happens to me also.
I'll be right back.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, here I am.
No problem. We'll edit that out, so it will
Okay,
be very
great.
seamless. So just if you want to start from the beginning, just talking about your background and the university, that would be appreciated.
Sure. So, I came to Bennington not from higher education. I came from outside of higher education. I had spent most of my career in public media. There are lots and lots of similarities between public media and higher education. When I was at NPR and at Sesame Street as a journalist, and then as a CEO of New York Public Radio, we are devoted to kind of education for lifelong learners, and with free access and getting the facts out and covering journalism and the news of the day, and in a way that I'm sorry, my phone just rang. Okay, so I'm going to start over again. I'm kind of an accidental college president. I came from public media, not from higher education, and I have loved my time at Bennington. It is an incredibly special place. I'm not sure I would be a college president anywhere else, because I kind of fell in love with the pedagogy and the approach at Bennington. And I had spent my life in public media. Most recently as the CEO of New York Public Radio, where we, had 7 or 8 stations and about 20 national shows and podcasts. We were among the first to podcast in 2008, actually, one of the first podcasts ever. And then I also was a journalist world. And what I loved and what attracted me to Bennington was it's a really student-centered approach. Our students are required to take 4 internships during their time. So an annual internship. We're the only college in America that requires that, and we've required it since the very beginning, since 1932. Now the joke is, they couldn't pay for the heat during January and February, so they sent then all women off to get jobs. But it became such an essential part of the college, and very much inspired by John Dewey and learning by the philosophy of learning by doing. It was the first college in America to put the arts at the center of the curriculum. So until then, really, the arts were really extracurricular, or some really not quite, at the center. You couldn't really study art. So Martha Graham came to Bennington and started the dance department, and Martha Hill came right after Martha Graham, and Martha Hill is this iconic founder of kind of American dance in some ways. And, we had incredible writers, and Eric Fromm, and incredible writers and musicians, and come to Bennington. So the arts are really, really critical, and students are really in charge of their own educations. They're the architects of their educations. It's self-directed learning. They create their own plans with their own interdisciplinary questions. So somebody might be studying math and music and getting real skills in both, and also maybe exploring some of the intersections between math and music, and like improvisation, which happens in both, or thinking about patterns and systems, and how to kind of think conceptually, as well as the very specifics of a choreography. So I fell in love with Bennington, and I love the place, and I love the alums, and we just came off of a mega weekend where alums were there and parents, and it was an amazing experience.
You have such amazing alum. I mean, it's amazing to me. You had, for Game of Thrones fans, you had Peter
Dinklage.
That went there. From an Expanse. for such a long time. I mean, a lot of people might not know Carol Channing, but people who are on Broadway, they know who that is, and all these other stuff. You've had a lot of Pulitzer Prize winner as far as writers and what have you. To what degree are parents, students aware of that strong heritage in writing and performing arts and what have you? Do people know about all of this when they first consider?
Yeah, maybe not. They should. I mean, there's an amazing, as you say, for such a small school, we've had so many writers, and from Bret Easton Ellis to Donna Tartt, who wrote The Secret History, somewhat, they say, based on Bennington. Percival Everett taught there. It's an amazing. Salika Jawad. I mean, it's
Mark Strand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. Like the history, and there's something to say about how the teaching and the pedagogy, as you mentioned, is, and this is why you're probably a perfect fit into this, because it's the intersection of the arts and writing and performing arts. It's just such a vibrant institution. So, which brings us to this question, especially for folks in those fields and what's happening in AI. In the context of Bennington College graduates, how do you perceive the impact of AI on the future workforce over the next 5 years?
Well, I think our graduates, many of them are already leading in the field. Beth Cantor is a graduate. She's a leader in nonprofit use of AI in nonprofits, and I think our graduates are going to be really uniquely qualified to kind of think about the intersection of AI and ethics, and really and asking questions based on real knowledge. So we also have a very, very strong social sciences area and science area. And we have a great computer science professor, Darcy Ott, who thinks about, who teaches very specific, very, very rigorous computer science classes. He likes to say himself, and you should maybe interview him because he's amazing, but he likes to say, well, he turned down MIT to come to Bennington because what he wanted was to put computer science and now AI at the center of an interdisciplinary liberal arts school. So that he taught a class, AI and ethics, last year. And it was really, starting from the premise that AI is fraught with ethical questions that strike at the very heart of what it means to be human and to act as a moral agent in society. And that there is a fundamental tension between what AI can do and what AI should do. And so the course investigated AI ethics using a truly interdisciplinary approach. There was very solid computer science taught in that class, learning about procedural algorithms and neural networks, and but also then philosophy. When you ask where and how should one act. And so the goal really is to deeply think about human values in an increasingly technological world, and to really think about ethics with an understanding of how AI actually works. So because of our tradition of, deeply understanding whether it's the skills of writing and the forms and the various different ways to be an actor, or to think about environmental work, or because we are deeply grounded in those kind of the actual kind of work of thinking about a discipline, and we're also very grounded in asking the bigger conceptual questions and philosophical questions about, the role of AI or the role of writing or the role of climate change or plastics in society. I think Bennington really offers the best of both worlds in the sense that, and is playing can play a really strong role in educating students to use AI and to think about it at the same time.
You have such a fascinating way to educate students, and so I don't believe students declare majors. They design their own plans, blending arts, social innovation, environmental studies, creativity. That is fascinating. So tell us a little bit, what kind of students are inspired to come here? It does take a little courage.
Yeah, it's the students are amazing, and they choose Bennington because they want to be at a place where they have both a lot of freedom to explore what they want to explore and what classes they want to take, but they also get really bespoke, very personal attention. So every student in their plan will have 3 or 4 faculty members who follow them and meet with them, once or twice a year to think about what their plan process is, how they're, progressing in their studies, to think about what kind of careers they want. And then the advisor, every student has an advisor, and it's not like, other schools like where my kids went, and I will not say where they went, but where their advisors, basically signed the course form every year or every semester, and then they never really heard from them again. And our advisors know their students really well, meet with them once a week, twice, or every other week, but many times. And we have also a lot of support with small classes and teachers who are there because we like to call them teacher practitioners. They're teaching, and they're there really because they want to teach, and they also are practitioners, whether they're research scientists or they're dancers or ceramicists. They have their own work, and that was true from when Peter Drucker was at Bennington. He was
really? He was at Bennington?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He was at Bennington. Bennington brought him, Carl Polanyi actually brought him to Bennington as a refugee scholar.
Oh my goodness.
He was 1942, I believe. And he got the call. He was a political historian, and he was also a journalist, and he fascinating, obviously really smart guy, but he got the call from Alfred Sloan while he was at Bennington to go look at GM and to help them really think about organizationally what should they do. And there he became the guru of management in the United States. And you don't quite think of that about Bennington, but he had a practice, if you will, outside of his teaching. And it was so our faculty is also modeling that learning by doing and that interdisciplinary work in their own work, and they're modeling it for students. So, the computer science division, also intersects, and the students will take kind of computer science and visual arts. I remember there was one student who now has quite a large successful startup in LA. He was a film video major along with computer arts, and he's now doing games that using a lot of computer science skills as well as visual arts skills, and that's a great mixture. And he's using AI. And another alum who was a documentary filmmaker and incredibly talented producer, he's now looking at animation and AI. And so this crossover it's natural when you're at Bennington, this interdisciplinary approach, and the kind of learning by doing.
Well, I'm definitely fascinated that Peter Drucker was their father of modern management. And my students in particular always talk about management by objectives, the
Yes.
MBO, which really preceded OKRs and KPIs and everything that we have around. And he's got a pretty fascinating biography, if anyone cares to read it, as far as how he came about and as a migrant, immigrant scholar, how he really impacted the foundation of business. So thank you for that. That alone is very exciting to know about. And in some ways, our higher education does draw a lot of great thinkers to America, but also it's been a tool of our soft diplomacy when people go back to their countries. And how, I mean, you look at Indonesia, I think 90% of their graduates came from UC Berkeley or something of that sort. So
yes.
it impacts that as well. Now, in your ecosystem, as you know, are most of your students in state or out of state at this point?
Oh, almost all come from out of state. We have a national. I think we want more students from Vermont, but I think we have about maybe 20 out of our. So it's New York, Massachusetts, California. We have huge. Texas now, more and more. The Southeast, Florida. They come from all over. I think there's probably every state represented in 50 countries, because we also have a quite amazing international population as well.
That's very fascinating. So as you think about this discussion about AI always brings this discussion about, is AI going to replace jobs? Is it going to enable jobs? In your opinion, what professions and or industries are at most risk in the coming 5 years?
Well, I think every industry is both at risk and that there's also huge opportunity with AI. I do think right now there's so much talk among recent college graduates about AI kind of taking the entry-level jobs. I think that's true, but I also think there will be new jobs that will be created, and that the students who come out of college knowing how, not just using AI, but understanding how it works and understanding the kind of evolution and the future, will be able to, and if you mixed with the kind of real critical thinking and creativity of a Bennington student, and the rigorous learning about history and philosophy and the arts, when you mix both of those together, if they really understand not just how to use AI, but how it works and what those fundamental questions are, I think they will have opportunities that we don't even know about. And I think the other thing I would say about a Bennington education is the fact that these students are architects of their own education. They're architects of their own well-being as well. We have a real strong commitment to mental health, but to helping students reflect and think about who they are and think about what they want to do with their lives, what their values and their goals are. And when you then you get 4 internships, and we actually kind of hope they fail gracefully, they get back up, they change, they pivot. They're not just checking off the box of requirements, because every student is picking the class and the faculty is teaching what they love, because they don't have to teach specific things. You have this incredible learning experience, and these students learn how to deal with failure, with ambiguity, with evolution. These students are going to have 8 jobs, maybe 10 careers, 8 or 10 careers in their lives. They don't even know what they are. We don't know. Nobody knows what those careers. Some of them will be, the same as now, maybe being an actor. I don't even know any profession that will be actually the same as I think about it. But, it'll all change. And these students are equipped to really go out and, if you will, hustle to get jobs, because that's what they've had to do with every internship, to kind of look at the evolution of the world around them, to ask both those critical questions about, like, how is this fitting into the world, to how do I make an impact on the world? And it's those students and those skills, some of those soft skills. I think, it was Peter Drucker that said, culture will eat strategy for breakfast, or something like that, but anytime, right? And these students, they understand that, and they understand that it is, it's a great skill that they are getting, unlike a lot of other college students who are, again, checking the boxes.
Well, truly, Bennington, as you mentioned, embodies the tenants-based approach to learning that John Dewey discussed. Is experiential, is continuous, and I think his famous saying was, "Education is not preparation for life; education is life itself." Exactly. And so it sounds like I'm sure he would have a lot to say about what's going on in education today. But as we think about putting on our John Dewey hat, especially you yourself, how do you embed AI, whether it's AI literacy or upscaling the workforce, into this university life experience? How are you thinking about that pedagogy and experience as well?
Well, I think there are several key themes. I think it's important to create accessible pathways so that all Bennington students have actually a foundational understanding of AI and data science, its concepts, its applications and implications. And that is maybe goes against kind of what people think about Bennington, but it is fundamental. And so we are developing a philosophy with that at the center. And the way Bennington also works is there's a lot of faculty interdisciplinary work. So just simply because these faculty members are collaborating on students' plans, we have a really wonderful collaboration among faculty. So a second theme, I think, is to foster faculty innovation, because that's where it starts. To support the faculty in exploring how, as an example, AI transforms their disciplines and pedagogy through research support and collaborative learning and course development resources. And that's, because then if the faculty is thinking about AI in their own discipline, the student will benefit. A third thing is to integrate critical and technical perspectives in the curricula. So to have a curriculum that connects technical understanding of AI systems with critical, ethical, and creative approaches, and emphasizing human-centered AI development. And this is something I know Darcy is working on, with a lot of his fellow faculty members, from other people in the sciences to people in the arts. And a fourth one is really to develop applied learning opportunities very much in the John Dewey sense of creating project-based experiences that allow students, say, to apply AI tools to real-world challenges while critically reflecting on their implementation. So at the core of a Bennington education is what's a real-world problem, and how do we affect something in real life. So, and a last one is to, make sure that we have the resources to be able to do that, to support, looking at how we can also create partnerships with public, nonprofit, and private sectors to enhance our resources and to give our students more specific pathways into whether they want to go into computer science or whatever that's going to look like, or they want to kind of go into a design but use AI to do it. We want to develop those partnerships so that they will have those opportunities. And so I think it's a fascinating time, and I think Bennington is also very well positioned. And just like with John Dewey or the founders of Bennington in 1932, the rise of fascism, the inspiration of many educators, they knew they also had to have a very strong pedagogy, but also really be able to meet the needs to the changes in society. And they were very clear about that. We need new ideas. We need to be able to pivot, and that's part of the philosophy.
You really inspired this thinking, which is anyone who has a liberal arts, humanities, social science background, at least I was one, who had some sort of technical phobia. Now I went ahead and created multiple technology company afterwards, but there was always this phobia. I don't know how to program. I can't take differential math and physics and chemistry. But this could be a renaissance in a sense. I mean, you talk about the interdisciplinary approach where if you are a liberal arts thinker, and I'm just throwing spaghetti against the wall, okay? So let's see. If you are a liberal arts thinker, and let's say you have thoughts, could it be because of AI, you could now do stuff that you feared that you could not do before? I mean, do you see, because now you could think outside of zeros and one, could this actually be liberating to a liberal arts thinker or educator?
Absolutely. And I think because, I was talking to a student the other day who was making an app by just writing into a program, an AI program, what they wanted to do. I want, this from this kind of, app. I think it was a productivity app or something, where I want to be able to take my class work, in this particular form and spit out kind of what I have to do. And they did it all by words, not by coding, Yes, I think that's gonna be the case. And so the access to technology, theoretically, there's the opportunity that it can be much broader. Whether that will happen, who knows? I think the other piece of that is that our liberal arts trained students who may, for example, want to make sure that people get out to vote. We have a student who is a computer science and we have a Center for the Advancement of Public Action. So he combines those two things in his plan, and he created what became a very popular way for people to come to a site and find out where exactly to vote throughout the whole country, and what the races were. And he did that because he could do the computer science really easily, but he was motivated by public action. He was motivated by a real desire. And the other thing that's really interesting about him is he's from Bangladesh, and he had just seen, a really, fascism on the rise there. And, he couldn't vote in the United States, but this was his contribution to democracy here. That is, so I think you can imagine a world where students trained in liberal arts with I was a history major, so I had a real interest in history. It also prepared me to be a journalist, right? And I think so. I'm very interested in AI and journalism too, because it has both an incredible ability to help you find facts and do things, but it's really dangerous also. And journalists are asking those questions about how to use AI in good ways, and what the dangers are around truth and facts, and the ability to totally make really dangerous media that foments violence and foments hate and not untruths.
Yeah, I mean, how disciplined we're going to be in using AI? Are we going to have a passive approach to it, so everything that comes out ends up being facts? As a journalist investigating journalism, as a researcher, peer review research, so not just hearsay, taking control over AI rather than being imprisoned by, or even becoming lazy with what AI gives us, because AI is just as good as us. Like the input is going to drive the way we ask questions. Very often, if anyone's even at its infancy, is you might ask a question of AI, and then it gives you a very general answer, and then you're going to say, no, but I was asking X, Y, Z, and the answer completely changes at the time. So now, it's interesting that as a liberal arts university, you have an artificial intelligence major. You have a course in AI and ethics. You have computer science curriculum that deals with blockchain and data computing. You have hackathon with the app called Vida. So there's a lot happening in your ecosystem as a university. But let's go back to AI and ethics. Let's talk about that a little bit, because there are a lot of, I would say, risk mitigation, regulations out there, everything from FERPA to SEC to HIPAA. The conundrum here is that things are changing so fast. I mean, we still don't have our arms around social media and the internet revolution. So what is the role of government, state regulations, ethics? Can we even keep up with all these changes?
That's a really good question. We are going to struggle to keep up with these changes, and it will be, I think, the ability to ask the questions, to know how to really hold government and corporations accountable for leading in an ethical way, and to be part of a conversation that is really one that should be a societal conversation about where the guardrails are. And it gets to questions of philosophy, of how do you think through, how do you make decisions about what life and what kind you want to lead, or what country you want to create, or what community you want to be part of. And I think there are a lot of very, very tricky, complicated questions, and things are moving so fast that we also need to develop leaders who can think, who really know the inside out of how AI works and where it's going, and can lead some of these questions, and are educated enough to be able also to know how to make change, how to ask leadership and create movements that are going to make sure that these questions are being dealt with in an ethical way. It's very hard and it's very tricky. And I do believe that liberal arts graduates are going to be particularly well equipped to do this.
So as a history major, Obviously, you're familiar with the industrial revolutions and every other automation. We've gone from a agrarian society to an industrial society to a service society now, and now to an information slash service society. I think the most intriguing question that comes out of this is that with every industrial cycle, we've had time to recalibrate the workforce. Okay. Internet was very fast. I mean, in fact, we have so many jobs from Amazon and Google and Facebook that did not exist. Obviously, not as big as manufacturing or agriculture, but still. The question is, do we have enough run rate in the next 5-10 years? If you look at AI first and then robotics second, to be able to recalibrate our workforce, we know more jobs are going to be created, but do we have enough run rate in the next 5 to 10 years to refit everyone into new jobs and avoid any sort of social unrest?
No. I mean, I don't think so. And I also actually would argue that there were certainly generations and people in the past that were caught in those transitions as well,
Yeah.
but no, we don't. And which is, why I think it's not just the skills, because you have no idea what the skills really are going to be that are going to be needed. You have to teach people to learn and retool, and that's part of this a skill you're teaching, and it's dealing with like change and thinking change is just part of what's going to happen to my life and to my community and to my family. And I'm going to need, and to, obviously, instead of thinking you're going to work for the same place, everyone's going to be doing different things. But how we're going to deal with that as a society, how corporate and nonprofit and government we have to build a society where we're devoted to retooling people's skills all the time. And I do worry about the generation that's just coming out of college. I have a daughter who just graduated from college, and there are jobs out there. There's certainly jobs, but they won't be the same jobs. They're not the same jobs as they were 5 years ago, and they're not the same jobs that they will be in 5 years.
Yeah. Well, certainly for graduates, this is a difficult time. Despite this wonderful economy that we keep hearing about, we're seeing more and more students in duress in terms of trying to find jobs, unless you're into certain healthcare fields or fields that are in very high demand. But you just mentioned something extremely important, which is, this process of learning and building the basis of someone who could weather all storms. But before they come to Bennington, and you end up getting certain types of, you have a certain advantage because of your institutional history, but think about all the higher education. If you think about K-12, do you think that needs to change in our approach to teaching in order to prepare for this new paradigm?
For sure. I think there's a lot of ways that K-12 needs to adapt. One of them is I think more project-based learning, where people are working in teams and working on real-world problems and learning the basics of science or data science, AI, but also knowing that it's going to change, being able to be from early on somebody who's going to be able to evolve and to get up and think about how their passion can evolve in this world. I think the K-12 needs to do that. But I also think, I don't know enough about the computer science area in K-12, but that too is going to go through, I think, an enormous innovation. I mean, the kids that are coming out of college right now who, were brought up in a time when coding was what they were told coding was what was going to, get them a great job. And some of them are getting great jobs, but no, and it won't be true in a while. And even for now, the graduates right now, it's not about coding. That's, so what is it? We have to fundamentally ask those questions. What do these students need?
So the finale question is, what will Bennington College look like 5 years from now?
I think the strong values of learning by doing, of student-centered education, of interdisciplinary learning will be the same. We will, however, see, I think, AI in the curriculum in this interdisciplinary way, where our computer science folks will be working hand in glove and helping faculty think about how AI and technology is affecting their area so that there is a campus-wide conversation. I actually also see that our campus will be multi-generational in a way that we're not now. There is so much that so much energy and creativity and intellectual inquiry you can get by having people from different generations be together. And we've done some of that, and we're really excited about exploring how we can become a hub for intergenerational learning and see what different generations can co-generate together.
That's super fascinating. Thank you so much, President Walker. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Likewise. Thank you, JP.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the College Admission TV Presidential Podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll bring you another insightful conversation with a distinguished leader in higher education.